Hello, boys and girls and children of all ages. Welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me. This is a program that we've been doing now for close to 20 years. We started out just doing this program at the local Panera Bread, helping entrepreneurs, business leaders, small sales professionals of all types really learn how to engage with each other, engage with the community, figuring out ways to really blow their business up and make sure that they're doing everything they possibly can to work together and create a sense of unity in the community, right? So this is what we do. This is what we love to do. I'm so excited to bring you the show. Today's show is going to be pretty special. Before we get into the details of today's show, I want to give you guys some ideas about what you can expect and a couple different tips in order to make this really useful for you. Today's show is going to be broadcast both on YouTube and Facebook. And so if you haven't joined me in either of those or both of those places, I invite you to do so. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and share this with as many friends as you possibly can. This is going to be recorded. And so you can go back and see all the back recordings of everything we've done in the past. So we're going to make sure that we continue to keep this party going and get as many friends and associates we possibly can. The bigger we make this thing, the more it'll be useful and developmental for small business leaders. Okay, second thing I want to talk to you all about is literally making sure that we stay on top of the kind of editorial content that you want to hear about, you want to see, you want to participate in. So let's talk about that. There are a lot of new ideas that you may be dealing with as a sales rep or small business owner, or some things that are important to you to get into and you want to go deep into whatever those things are. And I am excellent at putting together the kinds of training and the kind of skill building programs that you're going to need in order to move yourselves and your business forward. And so if there's some idea that you have that you thinking, okay, I want to make sure we talk about this at some point in the future, go ahead and throw it in the chat or DM me if you want to. DM me on LinkedIn, DM me on Facebook, hit me up on Twitter. It doesn't really matter. I want to get as much information from you as possible, and I will weave it in to the normal editorial content. So if you all have been paying attention, you know that for the last 7 weeks or so, we've been running through every step of my 9 steps to professional relationship mastery process. So sometimes you may see me use the hashtag 9-step guru or whatever that is. And, those are things that I do to make sure we try to keep that content relevant and fresh. And I update that content all the time. And so today's program, we're going to be sharing the 7th step. No, it's the 8th step. No, it's the 7th step, creating high performance teams. So we're going to really talking about this, the last 3 movements, or the last phase 3 of the 9-step process, I should say, is really all about how you work collectively in small teams and how you create better small teams, how you plan for small teams, how do you make small teams work, how do you create that kind of execution strategies you need to have in small teams. Now, a lot, of course, my leadership strategies and techniques I learned from being an Army officer, from being a part of the ROTC program, from learning a lot in leadership about how you move people together, right? And so, but of course, over the years, I've gotten lots of experience and lots of training, and I've worked with tons of teams in terms of how you execute and plan a certain thing. So I'm going to give you guys some very valuable lessons. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we've always known about leadership that we've gotten from the Bible. We're going to talk about some things that are maybe newer about neuroscience and how that functions in terms of how the brain works and how working together in teams, kind of encourages and develops our own social intelligence and why that's important and critical for our success. And then we're going to get into the 2 core ideas of today's program, which is, how do you, first of all, develop the right kinds of plans, and then how do you begin to implement them and win in order to create the winning team that you need to have, right? So we're going to talk about all that kind of good stuff. Again, this is Coach Powell. Thanks for helping me out, Scott. Thanks if you are, my buddy Scott's in the chat with me, so he's giving me some tips on the sidelines, which is really cool. Okay, guys, we're gonna get this party started. And one other thing I want to announce today. is a super special day. It's April 16th. It's not just tax day. It's my daughter's 22nd birthday. And young Miss Kayla is going to be a graduating senior at Howard University. Her and her sorority sisters, they call themselves the Divas, are celebrating another big milestone as they're bringing in some new people, which is always refreshing, always delightful, always amazing to see young people finding ways to move together. And we're going to be making sure we're going to probably not go as long as we normally go, because I promised Kayla I would take her and her friends out to have a wonderful celebration. Maybe we can catch some happy hour someplace and make a good show of things today. So it's a great opportunity, and we're looking forward to it. Let's chat. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I promised you all that I was going to share some good stuff with you today. We're going to talk today from my leadership handbook, which is literally one of the 9 steps to developing professional relationship mastery. Today, we're going to talk about creating high performance teams, the 2 simple plays that never fail. Now, I hope you all get a chance to download today's training guide from the manual itself. If you don't, I'm going to see if I can't go ahead and post that right away, right? So you can get that, and we won't have we won't be missing in action here. That's not it. Come on, Marvin. So we'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll do it this way, and then we will go and we will share it. Bingo, copy the link. And here you go. So if you guys can get that link, I just would like it if you could let me know that you have access to it. You can either download it to your hard drive, or you can just open it up, share it, look at your computer. So if you can get it, do me a favor, put yes in the chat. That way I know that people have received it, and because I'm going to be talking from that. And it really doesn't make a whole bunch of sense to pay a whole bunch of attention to me, because I'm going to be paying a whole bunch of attention to that. All right. Cool. Okay, I see everybody's catching up and jumping on board. All righty. So when you talk about high performance teams, it's important, because there's leaders. No leader wants to work with a group of misfits, or a group of miscreants, or a group of people who just don't seem to be able to function well. And it starts from the very beginning. When you start to assemble the team, when you start to bring the team together, you've got to do some key things to make sure that team really works. Now, the reality is everyone needs to know how to develop this skill. Not just people who think they have titles. People who are in charge, people who are responsible, people who are leading, people who are even a part of a team, all have to have these team building skills that we're going to share with you today. I don't know how many of you all have been a part of a winning team, but you're going to find a lot of the ideas and concepts that we share today are significant to that. And I don't know how many of you have actually had to develop and lead a winning team. We're definitely going to talk a lot about that today. So hang on to your seats, and let's think about some of the things that you got to do to be an amazing high performance team leader, team member, and just a part of collective greatness when it comes to more than 2 people coming together to accomplish anything. Okay. So first thing you got to be good at is you got to be willing to, commit staggering amounts of time to hone your skills in 2 distinct ways. One, as a recruiter, and 2, as a communicator. If you're not going to work on these things, if you're not going to become excellent at these things, if you're not going to consistently better these particular skills, you're going to find that you're going to have a harder and harder time being on and putting together a high-powered team. Now, leadership is something, and teamwork is something that, mankind have always studied and always talked about, always wrote about, always figured out as a way to move things forward. And in the Bible, we write about it a lot. The leaders who wrote the Bible, who put that together, they wrote about it a lot, and they didn't get it. That wasn't the first time people started thinking about this kind of stuff. It's just one of the first times we wrote it all down in such a masterful way. And so one of the things you think about when it comes to leadership is in putting together a high performance team is what it can do for you. And there's 2 things we really figure out that a good team is going to do. One, it's going to mitigate your losses. If you are in a great team and you belong to a great team, there can be some missteps, there can be some mistakes. And by the way, that's par for the humanity course. There's nobody who lives that doesn't make mistakes. But isn't it great? Wouldn't it be great to have team members around you, beside you, to help you pull you up, get you back on the field of play, get you back in the game, get you back in action, doing whatever it is that you're doing, helping you strengthen yourself and become more resilient? Wouldn't that be great? So teamwork is essential to mitigating loss, which we all experience. So think about it. Every loss you've ever had, every step backward you've ever had wouldn't have done so much damage, wouldn't have hurt so bad if you had a great team around you at the time. And when you have a great team around you at the time, it allows you not just to protect yourself from risk, but it also helps you to grow. And why is that? One of the reasons why that is because I think it's the natural growth strategy of the universe. And what I mean by that is when you as individuals have a trusted, valuable, excellent team around you, you're willing to do more than you're ever willing to do by yourself. You're willing to take more risk. You're willing to take on more challenges. You're willing to do more because you have the protection of the tribe, so to speak. You have the protection of the team. You have the protection of the group. And so you can risk more. You can put more at stake. Now, collectively, if everyone is doing that, you can imagine how the growth opportunity could be off the chart when it comes to really, really getting to the places you want to get to and the environments you want to be in. When you create a high performance team, you automatically create a high trust environment. This automatically creates both confidence in each other and speed in everything that you want to do. So you're going to get there faster. Even if you fail, you're going to fail faster. And the failure is not going to be as hard because you're doing it together. And so all these things are just critically important to putting high performance teams together. If you guys have any thoughts about this, feel free to share them in the chat. I'll definitely pick them up when we get through some of the content, and I definitely give you a shout out for you and your business. And by the way, if I haven't told you already, make sure that you let us know who you are, where you're from. If there's any way you want us to get in contact with you, want people to participate in anything you're doing or bringing to the table, please put it in the chat, put the hot links in the chat, make sure that we know how to get in contact with each other and stay in contact with each other. The next thing, we get out from the Bible about creating brilliant teams is the fact that, we, even if we're in the same industry or the same business, have the great ability to develop one another, to help each other grow, to help each other share, to help each other become the best we can be. I can't stand people who are so worried about being competitive with one another that they don't take the time to learn and grow together, especially their craft, whatever it is. I don't want to win by hoarding information from other people who consider themselves coaches or business consultants or whatever. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in learning from each other. I am interested in sharing what I know with other people who need to know what I know. And I have no fear that if we all become greater at whatever it is we do, somehow that's a loss for me, because I don't have this scarcity mindset. But people need to understand that, a lot of times when you find yourself associating with people in an association or in a group, there's that friction of competition that really shouldn't be there. It really shouldn't be there, because if you have a gift and I have a gift, and we're both put on this planet to exercise that gift and use that gift and do the best we can with that gift, then why not help each other do that? Why not strengthen each other along the way? And it just so like I said, they talk about this a lot in the Bible. People make each other better. Now, that is with great intention. That is not something that's a natural occurrence that you can trust and believe in just because you belong to an association or you join a group or whatever that is. That does not mean that everyone in the group is trying to help you move forward. That has to be an intentional aspect of the culture of the organization. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So another thing we learn from the Bible about teams and why teamwork is so important is that people have a natural connection to one another. It is an amazing truth that something that affects me affects other people that are stakeholders in my family, affects other people that are stakeholders in their lives, affects other people that are stakeholders in their lives, and so on and so on and so forth, like a ripple effect. And so the negative things work the same way as the positive ideas and concepts, right? So the more good things we're doing collectively, helping each other, strengthening each other, the more we're having an effect on the universe, the more we're having an effect on the local community, and it just flows back up and down that chain. I call that the chain of humanity, right? So it's very, very important that whatever you do, whatever energy you're putting forward, that you're not just putting it forward with the notion that this is about me. You're putting it forward with the notion that this is about how I serve the greater good. This is how I am a participant, and active and engaged participant in the greater good. And if you do this well, then you're going to get more opportunities. You're going to get more opportunities to serve. You're going to get more opportunities to grow, and you're going to get more benefits from the universe itself, right? So think about that. The more you contribute, the more you can get back. The less you contribute to others into the forward flow of human history, the less you're going to get back. And so it's a very reciprocity, good-natured thought process, but it's also a physical part of the process of being a person. And so think about that when you're doing whatever it is you're doing. It's also important to seek to serve one another and do it in a way that's about love, it's about engagement, it's about affection and empathy. You do that really well, there's really not a whole lot that can stand in your way. There's not a whole lot that can stand in the way of you developing an amazing team. There's not a way, or being an amazing team member, and by being an amazing team member, being an example for others who are part of the team, and then you grow in that way as well. And so it's all good to do this. Focus on supporting not just yourself as a member of the team, but on the team as a whole. And a good thought here is all boats rise with the tide, right? If you are a member of a team, but you find that it's all about celebrating the wins for maybe a major player or something like that, then that team is not going to last very long. It's not going to honor itself very long when someone is basically carrying the whole team, and that someone's not a team player. I don't know how many of you are paying attention to the Rookie of the Year process for the NBA, and it just seems that I think it was just announced that I think LaMelo Ball, I think it's his name, LaMelo Ball, is going to be the Rookie of the Year. But I saw some excerpts of this kid playing, and I thought, well, most of the shots and most of the things that he implemented on the field were passes, amazing passes, but they were passes, assists to other players. He helped other people score as much as he himself scored, and he himself scored a lot. So think about that. If you're going to be a member on the team, what do you bring to the table? What is it that you do to help the whole team grow? What is it that you do to take care of and participate and engage with the entire team? And how do you measure the entire team? How do you measure the entire team and its support and its growth? This is key. Good leaders have to always be on top of that. They have to know what's going on with the teams, what's making the teams work, what's making the teams fail. Now, before we go on to the science of teamwork, we've talked about ancient history, like what we've already known, Bible lessons that we've gotten. We already talked about those things. What we're discovering now, because of neuroscience, some amazing connections to how we develop teams and how they work. It's very, very important, very, very important that no matter what we do, when it comes to developing teams, we don't just look back, but we look forward. We have to look forward into, how we function, how we will function, how we want to function. Next week, we're going to get into planning and vision casting and why that's so important to team development. But I want you to know, I'm going to give you a little sneaky peek this week of why that's important when we talk about the neuroscience of team cohesion and what that's going to be all about. Real quickly, let me see if I can ask an engaging question that might be interesting to you guys. What do you think the biggest reason to connect in teams might be for entrepreneurs and business leaders today? You go ahead and noodle that question away, and I love to hear your answers in the chat box as we move forward today. And I think we can get a decent dialogue going. What is the number one reason that you should belong to and participate in a winning team right now for yourself? That's a good question. Let's go with that. Okay. The science of teamwork. I did a lot of work, a lot of research for this new updated version of this training that we're talking about right now. And one of the things I looked into was a couple articles, one by Britt Andretta and one by Ariel Kambrowski. And these two amazingly talented writers and professors, shared some great tips that I think we have to pay attention to. And when it comes to developing your team and when it comes to nurturing and working with your team, I don't think you can get away from any of the stuff we're going to talk about right now. You just really have to do it. The key to it all is one of my favorite things. You must communicate well. You must communicate what you want, where you're going very well. Teams that don't have goals, that don't have vision, that don't have a sense of mission and purpose fall apart fairly quickly. And so you have to commit. If you haven't really thought through what those ideas or concepts might be, you have to commit to doing that. Commit to thinking about it, commit to communicating about it, even if it's not fully formed, even if it's fuzzy and you can't really see exactly how it all is going to come together. You got to commit the time and effort and energy into thinking and planning and strategizing about it. Having said that, the first thing you got to do of the 6 steps that you have to follow when it comes to putting a good team together and putting a good team on the field, number 1 step is you have to be able to identify your team culture. Who are you as a team? Where are you coming from? What does it mean to be you? How do you do what you do? What are the moral standards that you have? What are the traditions that you support? What are the beliefs that you want to bring forward and buy into? And I got a great example to share with you with the roundtable. When Darren and I developed the roundtable, we really, really thought of what is it that we can do to bring people together? What is it that we can do to bring people together and help support them and help them learn how to support each other in the way? And then we had no clue what our mission was, what our vision was. We had to codified all that. We just knew that we valued that opportunity. We valued the opportunity to bring people together, and we valued the opportunity to help people help each other. So it wasn't until later on that we developed our definition of networking. It wasn't until later on that we really figured out, what our core principles would be. And then we figured out, what our mission should be. And now all that's squared away, and we're ready to move even further and deeper and grow even more because we've done the work. It's taken years, but we've put the time and effort into it. Nobody can say that we haven't done the rigorous work it was required to establish and identify our culture. Now I can tell you what it is. I can tell you how we do what we do. I can tell you why we do what we do. I can tell you when we started and where it came from. I can tell you how it's all put together and where we think it's going to be going forward. Because first of all, I'm one of the architects of the culture, but at the same time, I'm a participant in it. And a lot of the information that we got when we codified this stuff, we got it from our participants. We got it from asking questions and feedback from people around us as what they thought the culture might be. So it's very, very important that you identify your culture. And for this reason, high performance teams always share similar communication, personality, response time, and work intensity traits. Always, always, always. The more you are together, the more you are alike, the more you push towards uniformity, the more you create that esprit de corps that everybody believes in, everybody gels with, the more you're going to have a solid culture of which you can then identify and bring people into. This is super key to accomplishing that, right? If you don't get this right, then a lot of people don't, and they fall on their faces. The next thing you're going to do is number 2 is you're going to find the experts that you need. You really need to push for the highest amount of talent that exists. Not just the talent that's available, but the talent that exists. A lot of people go, well, they wouldn't want to do it because we can't afford to pay them. Or they wouldn't want to do it because they couldn't be a part of it because they don't have the time. They wouldn't want to do it because they're too busy doing other things. All the excuses we give by not approaching the right talent and the talent we need to have on the team keeps the team from actually functioning and working well together. So don't do that. Stop right there. Look for the greatest amount of talent you possibly can, even if that talent is greater than the talent that you have. It's okay to recruit people to the team in industries or in roles and things that you look up to. In fact, it is important to do that. You want experts on the team. You want the biggest experts you possibly can find on your team, in your advisory council, on your inner circle, on your board of directors, on anything that you want to accomplish where the small group has to come together and make big decisions. You want the best people available, the best people that you can assemble, not just the best people available, the best people that you can assemble. And you should put nothing in front of creating that environment. If that means you got to go find some more money, then that's just a resource that you're going to have to go look for. If that means you're going to have to create a bigger or better space or whatever, better offices, whatever it is you got to do, don't not do it just because you think it's easier to find somebody who you don't have to pay, or find somebody who is on the lower end of the totem pole, or somebody who looks up to you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have people on the team that look up to you, but I'm saying you should have a team full of experts. They might be looking up to you for one thing, but they must be experts in something else. You get me? And let's not make any excuse about why you can't do that, because with today's technology, you can reach out to anybody, you can connect to anybody, you can find ways to endear yourself to anybody and create relationships with almost anybody. You just have to be willing to continue to try. And once you get an audience with a person, even if they say I'm really busy, you may be able to ask them, listen, I see that you're really busy. I know you're really busy. I really appreciate that you're really busy. And I understand, but we're looking for top tier talent. So if we can't have you, who might you recommend that we talk about becoming a part of this team at some point in the future? Do that. I know you want a list of people, like people on the bench that are not really on the team yet, but they're waiting. They're waiting in the wings. They're like participant from the sidelines. And you'd be surprised how much you can get from your tier 2 members on your team, not just your tier 1 people, your A players, but your tier 2 people can be amazing resources for you, because they want to be on the winning team. They want to be on they want to play the big game, but you can't let everybody play with you. So you have to be discerning. You have to really, really work that through. And the best teams are exclusive. Let's not even, be shy about that. You got to be exclusive, especially when it comes to talent and it comes to putting the right team on the field, or putting the right there's a lot of challenges coming in that direction, but understand that's very, very important. Number 3, check for cultural fit. Okay, so first talent, then cultural fit. If you're selecting people to become a part of your team, they must be talented. They must be gifted. They must be expert, right? But at the same time, they also have to fit with the culture. They have to fit with the values that you have And I would say it's easier to find the talent because you can always check to see who's got what certifications, who's got recommendations, and who's got all kinds of stuff. You can do that. That you can know that a person is talented. It's harder to find that cultural fit. That means they got to bounce around your organization for a little bit. That means they got to see people that are other parts of your group, other parts of your team, and they have to, and to the best of your ability in the onboarding process or in the interview process or the mentoring process, whatever it is your process you're doing before you formally admit them on the team. It needs to be, they need to understand what the culture is, and you need to understand how they fit in the culture. If you haven't done that work, if you don't do that work, if you feel like we don't have enough time, we just got to get somebody in the seats and move forward, you're going to make major mistakes. I've seen it happen over and over again. People put out by the time people put a job application out there, they've already, messed up a large part of getting the right people on the team. Because now they got to interview 1,000 candidates to whittle them down to 20, to whittle them down to 5, to whittle them down to the 1. And, that mass marketing approach to trying to find that diamond in the rough, it works, but it's super time intensive. It's smarter to develop relationships first, and then you don't have to go backwards into finding the people. You just find people and you create positions for people that you already know have the right stuff. And people around you already know have the right stuff. And then that's how the circle of trust grows, and you create a winning team because, you're working with a team of people who already have that cultural fit. They have the talent and the cultural fit because they've already a known entity with each other and with other team members, right? Very, very important. Number 4. But before I move on, I will have to tell you, it is true that when you're thinking like I'm sharing with you right now, it is easy not to be open. It is easy not to be diverse. It is easy to knock people down who are already down. And I'm going to suggest to you that putting together a winning team is no place to even have the diversity discussion unless diversity is already a part of the existing culture. And I'm going to say that again. If diversity isn't already a part of your culture, trying to recruit diversity onto the team is going to be a fail. If you haven't learned anything from history and in the past history of how I've gone about this, you must realize that it's a difficult thing. Now, I know you're thinking, well, Marvin, you got to recruit the people, you got to get them in before you're going to be able to accept them and love them and blah, 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 blah. And I understand that a large part of that is true, but a lot of diversity training has to come in front of that. If you bring people who are different onto the team, even if they're talented, they may not have the cultural fit. And the culture may have to adjust so that they can have a fit, which means the culture they have to do a lot of work on themselves before they bring new people into the playing field. Because what I think as a professional is and what you think a professional is might be two different things. Do you want to get on my team? And you're touting your professionalism, and I'm touting we're looking for high quality professionals, and we're both saying that professionalism is important, but we don't even know what the definition of how we define professionalism, how that works for us, how that works for both of us put together. I accept you onto the team, and then you suck, right? You can't have that. It's too much of a risk, not just to the goal, which is paramount that you're trying to achieve. It's a risk to the other individuals on the team who are going to be wondering, why did you recruit this knucklehead onto the team? We don't understand. They didn't understand us. We don't understand them. They don't work well with anybody. Their jokes are not funny. There's nothing about them that we enjoy working with. So, you did a bad job in the recruitment side. This is a key thing. If a person does not fit into the culture of the team, you must either A, adjust the culture, or B, don't let them on the team. You cannot force culture. It has to happen organically. It just really does. And I'm going to get off my soapbox when it comes to that and move back into our presentation. But it's critically important that you get this right, because a lot of talent experts, a lot of people who are recruiting, they get this wrong. They're recruiting for diversity, but they don't have a diverse group. There's a lot of people who are open to diversity, and they're trying to recruit them into it. So therefore, people are miserable. People don't have a good time. They don't enjoy themselves. They don't like working together, and it just doesn't work. Right. So a lot of people say, I mean, you're supposed to say, we don't discriminate. We recruit people from all different ilks and blah blah blah. All the language, right? All the HR language is all there, all over the place for all the websites. But how does that take? How does that? What does that look like in your organization? If you can't speak to that, if you can't speak to how your diversity is working currently in your organization, then you probably can't. It probably doesn't. It probably isn't. And you probably need to work on that before you start to recruit people who are disabled, who are minorities, or who are having any type of difference where they may have been historically set aside or left out, right? Okay, on to the next thing. Well, where am I? Number 4. Okay, acknowledge your team's strengths and weaknesses. This is critical to bringing the right people on. If you can't be authentic about what it is you're good at and what it is you're bad at, then people are going to get a false sense for what they're coming into. They're not going to get a real sense. And when they come into it, they're not going to feel good about how you represented the brand in the first place. And so be as authentic as possible. If you've got some weaknesses on the team, admit it. Or you might be recruiting to solve that problem. Right, you might be recruiting somebody to solve that weakness, and it's not just that you're going to do a job. No, we are not too good at this, and we need somebody who is great at this to help us fix it, because we got a leaky bucket here, and we need somebody who is strong, who's an expert, who's a professional, who fits with us culturally, who can plug the leak. 2 things happen when you do that. 1, the person who brings in, they feel good about what they're going to bring to the table. They feel good that they can create something, and they know that their work is going to be meaningful. They know that their work is going to be valued, and principle, it's going to help them feel like they're making a great contribution to the team, right? The second thing that happens is everybody knows there is no dirty laundry. There is no secrets. It's all transparent. There is nothing that we need to learn. Everybody's excited about this new person coming in because they know and they understand their weaknesses, the problems they have. We already talked about those types of things, and they know this person's here to solve them, and they can help support that person in doing what they need to do, thereby making themselves more relevant, more significant, more meaningful in whatever they do. Critically important. If you don't get this right, team leaders, team members, then you're going to be a part of the problem. You're not going to be a part of the solution. Number 5, always check your existing network. A lot of times people don't do this. They don't want to bring their friends and associates and family members or whatever they have onto a team that they might have found themselves on, because they think it's a conflict of interest, or they think it's somehow misogynistic, or not misogynistic. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a word besides conflict of interest. When you bring your family in, there's a word for that, but I forget the name of the word. So if you guys know the word, just let me know. But in any case, they don't want to appear to have family leverage and all that kind of stuff. But guess what? It's how human beings function. And if you love somebody, they'd be a right fit for your organization, they have the talent and the skill, and you don't invite them, what are you doing to your friends? What are you saying to your associates? Those are on the team and those are not on the team yet. What are you saying? Do you not really believe in the team yourself? Do you not really believe in the goals? Are you just biding your time till you get off the board? Guess what? That shows, because if you're not excited to invite people to meet the other team members and their friends, and excited to incorporate them into your networks and so on and so forth, then it makes you look like you're not a team player, because you're not all in. You're not really endorsing the group. You're not really creating opportunities for others. And I know people out there going, well, you got to separate. Thank you, nepotism, Nancy. You got to separate business from personal. There is no separation. Let's just kill that noise. There is no separation between personal and business. If you're going to spend, sometimes the people in groups and organizations and jobs and so on, they're spending 40 to 60 hours a week playing with these people. 40, 60 hours a week, you better bet it's personal. My time is personal. And if I'm going to spend that much time, on some team mission or some organizational mission or some goal that is for the group, it better also be for me. Right? Because if not, then I'm going to feel like I'm putting my effort in, I'm wasting my efforts and my energies when I should be doing something more meaningful. And that starts from cradle to grave, guys. Let's not pretend like it's not important for us to feel what we're doing, because we do. We do whether we want to or not. We do whether we accept it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not, whether we're good at understanding what our feelings are or not. We might even be in touch with our feelings, but we absolutely either feel like we belong to something special or we don't. And it's the team's job to help us create that feeling and manufacture that feeling and keep that feeling going. And when it doesn't work, and it hurts. It's so bad. 86%, here's the stats. 86% of people on teams today, right now, don't feel like the team is good. They don't feel like they're getting good teamwork going. They don't feel like they're collaborating well. They're thinking that the teams are suffering and they're suffering as a part of the teams. That's 86% of people right now that even belong to any organization or any job or any business. That really sucks. Now think about that. That usually is what drives people to entrepreneurship. That's usually what drives people to becoming a solo producer, which is literally the worst thing they could do, because now they're out there by themselves. You think the struggle is real when you're with a team that doesn't work? Try going out on your own and having to figure everything out all the time by yourself, solely dependent on just your own strength, just your own energies, just your own passions. I promise you, you're not going to feel good about that. I promise you, that's not going to work long term. It might work short term. You might get some short term wins, but long term, you need people. People need people. And you need to be associated with people that you trust and people that trust you. If you don't, it's going to hurt. It's not going to get better. Here's a book. I love this book. And unfortunately, the man who wrote this book has passed away. But Dr. John Cacioppo wrote the book of loneliness, the book called Loneliness. He is America's premier expert out of Chicago, the University of Chicago, on all things loneliness. And, when you're alone, then you're inviting illness into your life. You're inviting mental illness. We're going to talk a little bit about that next week. When you're inviting mental illness in your life and you're inviting physical illness into your life. When you find that you're doing everything you're doing all day, every day alone. So let's help each other not be alone. Let's invite talent onto our teams. Let's make sure we have good cultural fit. Let's make sure that, nobody can complain that the communication isn't good. They weren't onboarded correctly. Nobody understands them. They don't understand the team. They don't fit. Let's kill all that noise and make great opportunities happen. Like Scott says, it's a force multiplier. A great team is literally a force multiplier. That's a good military term that those of us who have served understand completely. But that's how you win all the time. It's just you're bigger and you're better than everybody else, right? It's a force multiplier. Always check your network. The last thing you want to do, and we close this with when it comes to the 6 steps of developing a great team, is exercise patience. Patience, patience, patience. I can't say this enough. People need patience. They're going to make mistakes. They need room to make mistakes. They need room for reviews. They need room for feedback. They need room for opportunity to grow. This requires patience. If you're already working with an excellent team, you always got people that are great at what it doesn't mean they're going to gel together well, even if they have a cultural fit, right? There might be some other risks that are associated with bringing them on the team that, you haven't thought about, you haven't talked about, and you're going to have to get into that. You're going to have to be patient. Because maybe the person is a great cultural fit. Maybe the person is, really talented, but the person doesn't really know how to trust, doesn't know how to delegate, not used to being on the team, used to being a solo player, and they don't necessarily know how to work well with others. Then it's important for the team, the entire team, the leaders and everybody else to be patient enough to allow that natural organic love to happen. Don't just fire somebody because, you don't like them. You chose them because you did like them, right? You chose them because they are an expert. Unless they're no longer an expert, then there's no reason to let them loose. If you did a good job of the cultural fit part earlier on. Now, it also may let you know that your processes in terms of onboarding is not too good. Your recruiting process is not too good. Your communications process is not too good. And this may let you know that, because this person is not is not able to be rehabilitated, not able to be fixed, not able to create change or be a part of the change of your organization, then they got to go. Because the longer you hang on to them, the more they become a cancer in your organization, the more they become a cancer around you. And a lot of people don't develop teams, and they don't develop networks, and they don't develop good friends and associates who help them with their work because of exactly what I just said. It's just too hard. It is hard, but it is worth it. It's worth it in every area, in every ilk of life, whatever role you play, whatever process you have. If you don't have it, if you're doing it all by yourself, it's a recipe for a future failure, right? It's very, 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 very important. That's a great example, Nancy, of how ineffective organizations can be, and they make it tremendously uncomfortable for people unnecessarily, and that is a shame. You know, when something like this has to be done, Nancy says when she went to Nova, everyone at all levels wanted me to fire one person who turned out to be my MVP, right? First of all, to send one person in as a henchman over somebody that everybody else doesn't know really, really well, you know, is literally saying that we don't have enough trust and faith in your leadership and your guidance that this person can be rehabilitated, this person can work well. They don't really have a trust enough in you to trust that you can make it work. Just give it some time. Patience is key, right? But you also have to know when you're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. If you recruited somebody, or if you develop somebody, or if somebody's on your team who just doesn't fit with the rest of the culture, then again, that's going to be a long process to get them acculturated, because somebody has already branded them and made the decision that they're not going to work. Somebody in the leadership level, somebody on the team has already started that process of ousting them, not physically ousting them, but emotionally ousting them. And when that happens, that person's going to feel that something's not right. They're not going to put their finger on it. They're not going to be able to say, okay, this person said this to me, or this person did this to me, or this happened to me. They're just going to feel this subtle, we call microaggressions, that make them feel left out, that make them feel unwanted, unappreciated, and not tolerated. And if that continues long term, it's going to do damage to the person and to the organization. So you want to make sure that, you know, it's a big fight, but you got to make sure it's done well if you want to solve this problem. Okay. Now that we've talked about a little bit, how do you create a winning team? The next thing I want to share with you, which I think is vitally, again, important when it comes to team. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of what we learned in the neuroscience of this whole thing. All right, some of what we learned about how people work best together, right? Just from a scientific point of view. I told you earlier, it's not working right now. People and teams are not really working together right now. They're not really working well together, and that's a problem, right? Because long term, what we have is more and more stress, more and more problems, more and more issues. People who should work together, who could work together, but they just don't. It hurts, and it's creating more problems than it's creating solutions. So how do we fix it? One, leaders and team members have to start to spend more time together outside of the normal work environment. And it has to be in a space and a place where they feel safe and comfortable, let their hair down, and they can learn how to appreciate one another. Socialization is real. It has to happen. I used to think that, and this I was guilty of this, you know, earlier in my life, thinking, well, it's just about the work. As long as I'm doing the work, I'm good. And yeah, nobody could fire me because I was doing the work, but I wasn't a member of the team, because I didn't go to the after parties, I didn't hang out, I didn't find ways to engage with them outside of the work environment. And as you should take it on yourself as an individual, no matter who you're working with or how you're working with them, find ways to engage with them outside of the traditional work environment, whatever you think that traditional work environment is, or wherever they think the traditional work environment is. Find a new space, find a new place. In fact, when you're onboarding and interviewing people, I always tell people you should interview people 3 times before you bring them on board. You should interview them in an area that they're comfortable in, might be their office, then interview them in an area that you're comfortable in, it might be your office, and then interview them in an area where you're both comfortable in, and that which is a third party, which is a third site offsite somewhere else, right? Because you're going to get a feel for a person differently in different spaces and different places around. When different social things are going on around, they're going to represent themselves differently. And so you want to make sure that you get that sense for that, because that's going to drive a lot of connection. That's just a little third bar comment. It had nothing to do with the training, but it's a part of recruiting that you need to think about when you're going to bring somebody on into your inner circle, into your advisory council, onto your board, onto something that's important, vital for you to move forward. You really have to be careful about that. And so I suggest a 3 interview process at minimum. That's a minimum, right? It's not a maximum. So be careful about that. The other thing you want to work out is understanding that our social and emotional intelligence skills grow when we use them, right? So you have to, in order to grow a sustainable, healthy organization, you have to use the skills. You have to use the tools. When Dr. Goleman wrote Emotional Intelligence years ago, he was talking about and sharing with and showing people the way the mind works when it comes to feelings, when it comes to people using feelings and how people use feelings to rationalize and justify and make decisions. And it's not even logical. It doesn't have to be. You just have to know that we're people who, first and foremost, are stuck in a primitive brain, right, in a modern society. And that creates a tremendous amount of tension and stress. And those of us who learn how to negotiate those things really, really well create less fear, less rejection, less pain, less association with negativity. We do that so well because, and then with people around us, people that participate with us on the team, never have to worry about us sharing a confidence, or never have to worry about us embarrassing them, or never have to worry about us rejecting them or punishing them for just being them. That doesn't happen on wonderful teams. And so, but it does happen on every team that doesn't work. People feel embarrassed. People feel rejected. People feel isolated. People feel like they don't fit. People feel like they don't matter. People feel like nobody cares about them. It has to stop. If you're going to put a good team together, you've got to be better at making sure that everybody feels exactly the opposite of how they've always felt in every team they've ever been in from here forward. Because if you don't put the effort and energy into that kind of love, that kind of commitment, that kind of drive, I got a feeling you're going to be a part of the problem. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to be a person who I've taken the time to learn these things and teach these things to you, not just because I want to make myself look good. I want to make sure that the world is a better place because of my efforts and energies. And I know that if people get this stuff that I'm talking about, that I'm teaching, it will be. And we will have done I will have done everything I can do to make sure and anybody who I work with knows that, the game has to change if we want it to change. There's no way we can keep doing the same thing the same way. And COVID-19 is a great excuse. Get on a conference call with somebody, get on a video call with somebody, get on a video chat with people that you need to be connected to on a higher level, in a greater way. I'm going to rush through the last part of this, but if you're looking at the document that comes along with the training guide, I should say, I'm on page 6 right now. The 2 key ideas that we talked about earlier, that I handed on earlier, are here, right? You've got to be able to commit to the best, meaning you have to bring the best on the team, commit to being the best yourself, but then you also have to bring your communications A game. There is no time for your ego when it comes to communication. You have to be able to articulate who you are, why you are, where you're going, what you intend to do, why you intend to do it to the best of your ability, understanding that you are not a full and complete person right now. You are an ongoing, continuous project, just like the rest of us are. And so make sure that you don't try to pretend like you got it going on so thoroughly and so completely that you're perfect, because you're not. And people who try to represent themselves that way often, let people down, because people have a higher expectation than the one that you deliver to them. If I tell you I'm a great listener, and I am, but if I tell you I'm a great listener, and you have in your mind of what you think a great listener is, anytime I don't perform to that level, and I don't listen to that level, then you're going to look at me like a hypocrite, right? So you can't just brag and boast about things you can't authentically represent as truth in how you communicate who you are, what you're all about, where you're going. Because when you do that, you set people up for an expectation that's probably higher than the one you intended to set them up for. And what happens is when you let them down and it hurts. You create pain, you create rejection, you create sorrow by mismanaging your own representation. That does not mean that you do not represent your expertise fully and completely. Because if you're an expert, you're an expert. And you should represent yourself. But at the same time, always represent that I'm always continuous learning and I'm always growing and I'm a human being just like everybody else. I may make mistakes, but I'm continuing to move forward and grow. And if you find that something that I did or said that didn't work, that was off color, that didn't kind of work with you, do me a favor before you judge me. Let's talk about it. I'm open to dialogue. I'm open to feedback. Put yourself out there in that way, and you're going to find that people are going to play with you at a much higher level more often because of the authenticity that you bring to the table. But you have to be good at communicating that. You have to be willing to communicate it first and then become good at making sure that you communicate that you're not perfect, that you're an ongoing continuous project, and that you are willing to learn from others, even people who might not be as good at what you do as you are, because they could teach you a different perspective that maybe you haven't even thought about or heard of. Be open to the feedback. Okay, so in the exercises that are here on the last page, I promise you these are some amazing exercises. If you go through them and if it's something that, speaks to your heart or something that works well for you, I definitely want to hear about it. I'm not going to cover them because I promise you I end the course early today and it's getting close to 4 o'clock. So I'm gonna shut things down. But understand there's some great gems in here that will help you build the skills you need to build to help you create the kind of network and the kind of team that you have to create. If you don't pay attention to anything else, do these exercises, because these exercises will give you the best feedback, will give you the best engagement, the best strategy to help you grow. I promise you. And they've been put together through years of practice and research, and all kinds of good stuff went into them. So test them out. If you find something that doesn't work, I love your feedback. Okay, let's see if we have any questions from the peanut gallery out here. Anybody have anything to say? Anybody have anything to share that might help the conversation along? Or if you have a thought that you want me to throw into the pot, definitely let me know. If not, we're going to close this down in a few seconds. I see Rose is out there in the audience. Scott's in the audience. Nancy's in the audience. This is a great show. I really love this process, and I'm glad that I'm able to even just dial it in with you guys on a regular weekly basis and be here. It means a lot to me that you participate and that you share this moment with as many people as you possibly can. I can't tell you, every week my heart's full with the time that we spend and the obvious connections that we all have one to another. And let's keep the party going, guys. With that said, I'm going to sign off for the evening, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Friday.